There's a line from the Spanish poet George Santayana, which I often quote in my Patreon podcasts. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And that very much applies here to Sergey Kovalev and his promoter Kathy Duva following Kovalev's third professional defeat, this time at the hands of Eleider Alvarez. Now, Kovalev has released this video here where he's talking from the hospital reacting to his loss. And English is not his first language, so the point that he's trying to convey is not completely clear, but from what I can discern, it appears to be that Sergey Kovalev is basically saying, I don't know what happened, I got caught from a punch out of the blue. Rather than what really happened, which was he got systematically broken down, outboxed, and then taken out, he seems to be running with this idea. Maybe Harold Lederman convinced him of this, I don't know. But he seems to be running with this idea that everything was going okay until he got caught in the 7th round. And, maybe it's Kovalev himself thinking this, or maybe it's, Harold Lederman. Maybe it's Kathy Duva. We know Harold Lederman's only a commentator. Maybe it's Kathy Duva, his promoter. Because this really is remarkable. Now, there's a reason why there are so many thumbs down here. Okay, I ain't left the thumbs down. It's other people. There's a reason why there's so many thumbs down. Because Kathy Duva does not realize that denial ain't a river in Egypt. Yeah? Kathy Duva says in this interview that Sergey Kovalev dominated the fight up until he got caught. I mean, what planet is Kathy Duva on saying that Kovalev dominated the fight? What is she smoking? Sergey Kovalev was getting outboxed. Don't get it twisted. It was a competitive fight. All right? But for the most part, he was getting outboxed. There was a moment in the middle of the fight, and I say in the middle because the fight only lasted 7 rounds. So let's say in the 4th, 5th, around then, when Kovalev started putting his foot on the gas and applying some pressure, using volume to try and overwhelm Eleider Alvarez, unsuccessfully in terms of the eventual outcome of the fight. But he did manage to win a couple rounds just on volume without landing that many clean, effective punches. He missed far more than he landed. So it was a competitive fight, but a fight in which he was certainly not dominating. He was certainly taking clean punches. He was certainly having lots of problems with Alvarez's jab. He was certainly losing rounds. And all 3 HBO commentators, Max Kellerman, Roy Jones Jr. and Jim Lampley, all saw the same fight that I saw. They all saw Eleider Alvarez causing Kovalev loads of problems and winning rounds from the very beginning of the fight. They all saw it. But bizarrely, Kathy Duva and apparently Kovalev himself didn't see it. Now, I spoke in the aftermath of Kovalev's first loss to Andre Ward that Kovalev's whinging and whining and excuse making were not going to help him win a rematch. In order to win a rematch, you have to see what you yourself did wrong. Now, Kovalev did that to some extent, but he was still holding on to this idea that he got hard done by. He didn't want to take the situation out of judges or officials' hands or anything like that. And not saying you should have to, okay? But if you want to win a rematch, you can't concentrate on what the judges and what the ref did. You have to concentrate on what you did and try and see if you can fix that. Certain things are always going to be out of your control, but some things are going to be within your control. And you have to concentrate on improving the areas of your game that are within your control. Kovalev didn't do that enough. Following his first loss to Andre Ward, he was concentrating too much on blaming other people rather than seeing what he could do himself, what he needed to fix himself. And we seem to be going through the exact same thing here with his loss to Eleider Alvarez. This guy is apparently acting as though everything was going swimmingly, everything was going fine until he got caught with some big shot. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. And Kathy Duva, the same thing. You know, when you've got people like this, like Kathy Duva, who's not going to be real with you, who's going to blow smoke up your backside, how are you ever going to improve as a fighter when she's not giving you the real, when she's not being honest with you? Kathy Duva is a desperate woman in the world of boxing. Why is she desperate? Because Sergey Kovalev, for years, has been her only major fighter. So that has made her desperate. And we really see the desperation in Kathy Duva right now. That's why there's all these thumbs down. The woman talking about Kovalev dominated the fight. Incredible to be saying something like that. And just as an aside, look how small this arena is here. I'm not sure what the attendance was for this fight, but this is a world light heavyweight title fight. Look at this. It looks barely bigger than York Hall. You know, York Hall is a small venue in the UK, a famous small venue in East London in the UK, where usually up-and-comers fight there. Prospects and people making their way in boxing tend to fight in the York Hall. It's a great venue, by the way, but you don't put on major championship fights in the York Hall normally because it's just far too small. But here we have Sergey Kovalev, who's been a world champion for many years, and Alvarez, a top contender, fighting in this tiny little arena, the Hard Rock. I mean, it's tiny. Was it even full? Probably wasn't. I don't know. But that's the state of grassroots boxing in the United States. It's in a terrible state, which, you know, I can go into it in a different video, and I've talked about in other videos, but hopefully, you know, Al Heyman tried with PBC to regenerate grassroots boxing in the United States. The grassroots support for boxing is what I'm talking about. Because obviously Kovalev and Alvarez are both foreign fighters. Neither one of them are American, but they're based in America. Okay. But even if you had two American fighters, you probably have a similar situation to this, where there's you would definitely have a similar situation to this in most instances, where there's very few people in attendance, because grassroots support for boxing in America is at an all-time low, which is a shame. And it is also a shame that people didn't respond accordingly to PBC when Al Heyman had all these PBC shows on all these different networks in the United States. Al Heyman gave you guys a massive gift. You know, he gave you guys an amazing amount of boxing, high quality boxing for free. But instead of lapping it up, instead of getting behind your local fighters and doing all that kind of stuff, and I'm speaking to the American audience here. Obviously, I'm not speaking to the hardcore American audience. I'm speaking to the broader public in America. Instead of lapping it up, they ignored it. Sad, sad stuff. Al Heyman must feel like, you know, the American public are ungrateful for all the effort he put in. But anyway, that's an aside. Kathy Duva and Kovalev are delusional at this point, particularly Kathy Duva. Don't go listening to Harold Lederman, because Harold Lederman has a piece called Hey Harold on HBO. They sometimes upload them on YouTube. And the Hey Harold piece is shot in a bar. It's shot in a bar. And Harold Lederman's nose is always red. So you got an old man slurring his words with a red nose, talking about boxing in a bar. They put him in a bar. Think about that. Think about the fact that they put Harold Lederman to shoot their HBO segment with Lederman. Think about the fact they shoot that in a bar. And this guy's supposed to be a judge. Alright? Why is his nose always red? And this is the guy saying that Kovalev won every round, other than one round, through the first 6. Absolute insanity. So yeah, Kovalev, I don't know if he can ever come back from this. I don't know if he can ever improve. But if he does, the only way for him to improve, the only way to come back from this defeat and the 2 other defeats that he's had properly, from a mental point of view, improve himself as a fighter, the only way to come back from this is to see what he himself did wrong. He's got to address, for one, his defensive frailties. He's got to also address his mental approach, because he goes in there with this bully mentality. He goes in there with the mindset of an on-top fighter. When he's on top, it's great. But when things start getting on top of him, all of a sudden he don't know what to do. He's like a rabbit in the headlights. And that's no good. You need to address that. As they like to say in America, you need to have more dog in you than that. He also talked about his training camp, Kovalev, in this video. He said that he had a 3-month training camp. And he was kind of insinuating that that was too long a training camp to have. Well, he's complained about these things before. After the first Andre Ward fight, he complained about his strength and conditioning coach. Oh, he was getting me to do all this stuff and he was no good. So he got rid of him. And he went back to apparently training as he trained as an amateur. Then he went into the second Ward fight. It didn't work. He still got, he got beaten more decisively than he did in the first fight. So then he said, you know what? It's John David Jackson. So he got rid of him. And now he had a couple fights against overmatched opposition. Then finally steps up again against somebody who can really fight. Loses again. Now he's saying, well, training camp was too long. So don't be surprised if he fires his trainer again. This new trainer he's got. Don't be surprised if he fires him because he says 3-month training camp too long. There obviously is many cases where fighters do train too long and, get overtrained and they leave their best work in the gym. That does happen. But has that really happened with Sergey Kovalev? What was he working on for the 3 months? Because he doesn't appear to have been working on his defense. He was getting his head rocked back by jabs against Alvarez the same way as he was in the Isaac Chilemba fight. Chilemba was rocking his head back with jabs on multiple occasions in that fight. Andre Ward obviously did it to a lesser degree. And Alvarez had the most success with his jab of any other, Sergey Kovalev opponent. So, defensive problems, Sergey, are what you need to take care of. Why were you getting hit with a jab like that? This man was outboxing you. This man was outslicking you. He was rocking your head back with shots and you were struggling to land cleanly on his head. That's the problem. That's what you need to address. You didn't have enough respect for Alvarez's skills. You thought you could just go in there and bowl him over. You were too impatient when he started outboxing you. You threw caution to the wind. Boxing, particularly at this level, is often a chess match. It's often a battle of strategies, a battle of wits. You have to be able to outwit your opponent. Now, Sergey Kovalev wasn't interested in trying to outwit the guy. And sometimes it's a mixture of two. Sometimes you're going to have to use brute force at times. But you're also going to have to employ strategy and skills. And Kovalev just got it wrong. Whatever he got wrong in this fight, from a technical point of view, from a tactical point of view, those are the things he needs to be addressing. Not just acting as though things were going well until the 7th round. If he thinks things were going well until the 7th round, then he's finished as a fighter. He might be finished anyway, but if that's the road he's going down, he's going to tell himself everything was fine until the 7th. He is seriously deluded. And you can forget about this guy ever doing anything at world level again, if that's the kind of attitude he has. And he needs to, I've been saying for years that Kovalev needs to get rid of Kathy Duva. He needs to get rid of this woman. And yes, she has got him to, multiple world title fights and all that kind of stuff. But who's to say other promoters couldn't have done the same thing for him? Or done an even better job and got him paid even more money? I know he has this loyalty to Duva, but look, boxing is such a finite sport in terms of longevity. There's such a small window of opportunity for fighters to earn life-changing sums of money. You need to get it right when you pick a promoter. You really need to get it right. Because there may not be another opportunity for you to go with another promoter and earn life-changing sums of money because you might be too old by then. You might be washed up by then. So you need to go with the best promoter you can find at the time to get you all the big fights. That's what you need to do. All this loyalty in boxing, I don't believe in loyalty in boxing when it comes to the fighters. Loyal for what? You've got a very small amount of time to make all your money. You're the one putting your neck on the line. You're the one putting your health on the line. You're the one doing the grueling training camps and all that kind of stuff. You're that guy putting yourself through the mental and physical stress. And you've only got a very few number of years in which you can earn life-changing sums of money. And most fighters never get to that stage anyway. Okay, but the fighters who do, there's no time to be loyal to certain promoters. Nah. Because when you're done, when you're finished, that promoter's not going to want to put your fights on anymore. But that promoter can still make money. They can be 70 or 80 or whatever Bob Arum is at the moment and still be making loads of money. You can't as a fighter. No. You've got a few short years to make your life-changing sum of money and then you're done. So why are you loyal to these promoters? What for? I don't believe in it. Go where you need to go to get paid the most. And don't let any promoters or any of these kind of people hold you back and try guilt trip you and play the loyalty card. Don't let them do it. It's a business, and they know it's a business. They're playing you when they're trying to, guilt trip you and all that kind of stuff. They're playing you. You think they would have much loyalty to you when you're washed up as a fighter and you're still looking for paydays? They ain't going to want to put you on their shows. The hell with the loyalty. Go where the money is now. We'll see what Kovalev can do here. But it's a long road back. You need to get rid of this woman. This is a person he should have got rid of. Never mind John David Jackson and all these other... He needs to get rid of this woman. He also needs to switch up... Because, again, this woman's no good for Kovalev's mind. Telling her that he was dominating the fight. How's that going to help him? You need to be real with him. But John David Jackson apparently said anybody who's real with Sergey Kovalev, he fires them. John David Jackson, if he's to be believed, said that Sergey Kovalev is basically a megalomaniac. And indeed, Abel Sanchez has implied something similar. Abel Sanchez said nobody can train Kovalev. He's untrainable. And not because of his ability in the ring, because he's got loads of ability. Untrainable because of his attitude. This is what Abel Sanchez said. That he's an arrogant man who doesn't listen to people, doesn't listen to trainers. Anyway, drop your comments in the comment section below, people. Let me know how you feel about everything I've talked about in this video. All right? It's happening. I'm out.